Welcome to Mindset for Functional Athletes, a podcast for functional athletes who want to gain a champ's mindset. My name is Tom Foxley and I'm the founder and the head coach of Mindset RX. Today I want to talk about what is really the foundation of mindset change. And it really starts off with a personal revelation. I was going for a walk yesterday and I've been trying to force myself to take a more laid back approach to life without pushing quite as much as I had. And that in itself is a lesson, really. I think as athletes, we try and accomplish more than we should be able to, or more than we expect ourselves to be able to. And we consistently exert ourselves. And I think if we really look at nature, if we really look at like the example that nature provides us, my mentor actually shared a quote the other day. Brian Grasso shared a quote the other day, which said something along the lines of, we must learn from nature because it's never rushed, but it always accomplishes everything. And that's really the point here. So I've been trying to do that a bit more, and I was taking a walk along, and I managed to find for central London, some fairly nature-y bits. There was a muddy path and a river flowing by, but there was the tube, and there was those massive like gas container things that I think they're called gasometers or something. But yeah, they were next to the river, so it was kind of like momentary pieces of tranquility as you saw some blue sky or you saw a squirrel, and then it's like train goes past. But anyway, I was on that walk and I was trying to just not think of anything, which is, if you've ever tried to not think of anything, it's pretty tough. And I was just seeing what would come up in my subconscious if I wasn't thinking of anything, if I wasn't trying to solve a problem. And I noticed that I was trying to solve problem after problem after problem, which is very interesting. And obviously this awareness is something that I recommend all athletes take on board. But the other thing that I really noticed was just how different the narrative is in my head. And this narrative that I used to have in my head was one of constant, I hesitate to say fear, but expectation of failure, I think, is probably the right way to say it. I would always expect the worst outcome. I would assume that people are out to get me, which was like most of my life. I'd be thinking, okay, so-and-so is out to get me. They're going to self-sabotage. They're going to make me self-sabotage. They're going to take this away from me. And on an athletic level, I was just sure that I was on my path to mediocrity. And this was maybe a decade worth of my life. And for someone who's 26 now, a decade is obviously a fairly considerable amount of time. So, and really, if you think about my adult life, that was and especially the part of my life that I can remember, that was the vast majority of my life. That formed my formative years. That formed the kind of personality that I developed. And this bled into all my actions. I would never live up to my potential. I'd always be content with just scraping by on sheer talent alone, whatever the hell talent is, and like doing the bare minimum. And this really affected me as an athlete because I would never accept the burden of responsibility that comes with success. And this is something that we all do. I mean, if we look at success, if we look at everything that comes along with success, it is terrifying because you've got to change not only your expectations of yourself, but all your relationships with other people change to a degree. Your daily commitments change. The fear of failure gets bigger because there's further to fall. And this fear of success can really nullify our performance. It can really take away those things that are most important to us. And this fear of success is crippling for a lot of athletes. So this is something that I used to experience a lot, and it bled into the rest of my life too. And it is a common theme. And I think when we get closer and closer towards the narratives which form the center of our mindset and the center of who we believe we are, they become more entrenched in all of our behaviors. So on the surface, on the surface level narratives, they're quite easy to change, and they might be specific to different areas. So like you might have one certain narrative in training, and one in your career, and one in your relationships, and one in your learning, and one like all of these kind of things. Those narratives apply. But what we really find is that when we go deep to the core of who you are and who you believe you are, there's narratives which run deep and they affect you in the whole of your life. And what we've got to do as an athlete is not try and consciously force narratives over the top. What we have to do is simply become more aware of the narratives that are there, because we are so tempted to like try and use our conscious mind to outpower our subconscious mind, and subconscious is far more powerful, like I've said maybe hundreds or maybe thousands of times by now. So what we really have to do is begin to listen, begin to observe yourself, begin to observe the patterns of behaviors that are in your day-to-day life. And by doing this, you'll pick up the narratives. The narratives are essentially stories you're telling yourself, beliefs that you hold about the world. And it's only through changing these narratives, or by providing evidence to the contrary so they shift, that we can change our outcome. Because changing your actions, it very rarely works, especially consistently. So if you look at the last time you tried to change your nutrition, or the last time you tried to develop a mobility habit, or to hit the gym more regularly, or to take time to decompress, the last time you tried to do it, I'm guessing it was a failure. Like at some point, I'm guessing it was a failure, because if we're trying to force this new behavior in, then it doesn't really fit into our model. What we have to do is change the subconscious narrative that's going around. And once we do that, we reach success. And that really is it for today. I think it's a very important lesson. So what I'm saying is this, like as a takeaway practical point from this, because I like to give as many practical points as possible. Listen to the voice inside your head. Watch your behaviors that you perform. Feel your physical body more often. Like what are you actually feeling? Is it like anxiety? Is it threat? Like what's going on there? And then also listen to the words you're using when you converse with other people, because this will give away a lot about yourself that you didn't even realize was there to begin with. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you need anything, of course, you can reach out to me on social media. I think the best place to do that is in the free Facebook group that we run, which is Mindset for Functional Athletes, and there'll be a link to it in the notes or the information section of this podcast, so you can check that out there, or just search for Mindset for Functional Athletes, or you can find me on Instagram, which is at Tom Foxley, which is Foxley. And if you need anything else, I'm sure you can reach out to me in a variety of other means. And of course, if you enjoy the show, please share it, like it. You're not on social media, share it with your friends, whatever. But the main thing is, I am stoked that you've listened to this far, and I hope you enjoyed it.